First, in capitalism, it's good to know that the capitalists were interested in getting the maximum exploitation out of their workers. At the same time, they needed the working class to reproduce itself from year to year so that they could have something to exploit. The women were often put into the position of maintaining the family, reproducing the children, and caring for the man as a way of providing free labor for the capitalist system. The man, on the other hand, would go to work and be exploited on the job. Capitalists were very happy about that. They got two for one, really. They got the guy being exploited and dying at an early age in many cases. They got the woman working for free and her life being tied directly to whether the man could survive or not. A very good situation for the capitalists, the ability to make lots of profits off of the labor of this family. Well, with socialism, the ideology and the political thrust was really very optimistic about changing all that, bringing about the equality of men and women, raising the family to a level of something that should really be cared for rather than something to be used for profit. And that was the general political thrust, and that's why you had things like the right of women to get out of marriages in the Soviet Union after the revolution there. That's why you had the unbinding of feet in China, that horrible practice where women were treated by having their toes bound under the front of their foot and then the front of the foot bound another time under the arch of the foot so they couldn't walk. They could barely hobble around. That kept them essentially as slaves to the men and in a very inferior position. Well, that kind of thing was fought and reversed by the socialist revolutions that were the first stage of the communist process that the communist parties around the world were trying to develop. So there were many really good things that were done by the communist movement as it tried to build a socialist first stage of a new society. But that political energy was not enough. Undermining that sort of step by step all along the way was this other problem. That is, the economic system of socialism maintains a wage system. Not only does it maintain the wage system, it also uses accounting profit as a guide to where production should go. Moreover, the Communist Party leading the socialist process put a primary emphasis in almost every case of the 20th century revolutions, a primary emphasis on building productivity and faster production. Well, the point is that as long as you are focusing on maximizing production and not on building social equality, your primary goal being to increase the level of production of goods and services so the society can be more abundant in goods and services. If you're going to do that, you're probably going to neglect the rest, and then the rest becomes like it used to be under capitalism, because that is what will help productivity to advance the most. So we face this contradiction in the world communist movement. The direct political and ideological fight for women's equality, coupled with an economic plan that objectively needed to have women in an inferior position. And that's where we ended up, because we had new capitalists, essentially Communist Party leaders who became capitalist-minded as a result of this strategy, and they became a new ruling class in many of these societies. This new ruling class acted very much, in fact, almost identical to the old capitalist ruling class, and began to further undermine women's liberation from various forms of oppression. And so today we've found in almost all of the once socialist countries a restoration of capitalism, and then parallel to that a restoration of women's oppression. And so I think that we're facing today the problem of rebuilding the world communist movement on a different foundation, that we are going to maintain the principles of socialism, that is, the political and ideological principles of equality between women and men that was articulated in the socialist period. But we're going to add to that the political and economic strategy of creating an egalitarian society with equal relations among men and women, and abolishing the divisions, the artificial divisions between what is productive and unproductive labor. As long as the labor is necessary to society, it is productive. And we will share child rearing, we will share housework, we will share mental labor, we will share manual labor, and we will work collectively to make sure that our society is a happy one that serves the interests of the international working class, rather than one that is hell-bent only on increasing production at whatever cost to the society.
Developing the abilities of every person, as the speaker pointed out, may not be the way to make the most profits. It may not be the way to make the most cell phones or televisions or automobiles or VCRs in the most economical way. But from a communist point of view, that's not what human society is about. It's not about things. It's about developing people.
Oh, the men are talking.
Controversy. You bring the controversy up again.
Bring it on.
I think that's right. It's not just a question of eliminating the economic base and thinking that, okay, we've done away with the profit system, so sexism should die out. That we really have to fight it on a conscious level too, consistently until it is gone. And we had a meeting recently, and I was trying to be honest, although I realized I got some criticism for it. But I remember that just to show how the party is not in a vacuum, and that the party is existing in capitalist society, and capitalist culture comes into the party. I raised that I remember when the party was changing a chairman from a male person to a female person. And I definitely remember that one of my thoughts at that time was, I questioned whether or not this female comrade would have the goods, so to speak, to lead the party. Ooh. And I realized that was a sexist thought, that wasn't a communist thought, that was a capitalist thought. But just to show you how it plays even in the minds of party members, that we see things sometimes in gender and not in political abilities and leadership. So, it affects us on all levels.
How could that have possibly entered your mind and being in the party?
Right. Well, I think that's the point. Just because you're in the party doesn't mean that you suddenly shed all of these bad ideas. And I think that many males are brought up with the idea that if there's some kind of leadership, strong leadership to be given, that a man has to give it. And to be honest about it, the first leader of the party was a male. The second leader of the party was a male. And so it was like that continued to play out until finally the party had a female leader, a strong comrade that I know the person who became leader of the party. I'd worked with her in California in the Farm Workers Union, but I just remember that thought jumped into my mind that she's going to lead it, and then I thought, wait a minute, why am I thinking that? So those, a lot of time if you talk to many males, if they walk into, like in academia or in the business world, if they walk into a meeting and a male is leading the meeting, they probably don't give it a second thought. But if they walk in and a female's leading the meeting, I bet a lot of males kind of think, have at least a half a second or a whole second thought about, how strong is she going to be in carrying out what needs to be done in the meeting. So it infests us on all levels. And like I said, just because you're in the party doesn't mean you're suddenly pure and you don't have those thoughts anymore.
Uh-huh. Does that happen to either one of you two?
Not that I would admit it.
Oh, we're no, we're being honest here.
I'm not as good at being honest.
Put it. Okay, next one.